content of this channel is for mature audiences. Parental discretion is advised. You're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel. Please make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell notification button. And please, feel free to share the video. Thank you. What's cracking, y'all? I'm GG, man. You tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel. It's the place where black men can express themselves freely, straight up with no chasers, man. You know what I mean? And before I get things started, man, I want to give a shout out to haters, man. You know what I'm saying? You know how I feel about you, man. So, it is what it is. When you come in, man, can you please make sure to hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the bell notification button so we can, get this algorithm pushed up, man, for this vid. Thank you. And like I always do, I want to give a shout out to all the members of the Green Gorilla channel. So let me take care of that, man. Shout out to Jason Hales, Be About Peace and Pleasure, Charles Finney, Interesting Thought, Lee Ways, Bim Rock, Blacksword 404, BD Main, Black Men Being Brutally Honest, and Michael Ross. Big up to y'all. Big up to Lord Hamal, Apex Prowler, Ezekiel Will, Naomi Gary, J. Cleveland Green, The Toxic Masculinist, Brotherly Love 215, Pulpit 28, No Sleep, Broken Blade, and Mr. King. Thank you all. Larry R., Seth Son, Divine Love Ridge, Afro True TV, Show Me, Spain Man, Ben Cannon Kenton, Seven Coast Dojo, Anthony Davis, I'm Just Jules, and An Honest Look. Big up to y'all. Hey man, every time I see Ben Cannon Kenton, man, it screams island all over, man. It just what's your name, man? My name is Ben Cannon Kenton, you know? Anyway, man, big up to Sherlin Woe, Ricky Dawson, Stefan, Julius Ferguson, True 7360, Mr. Me Too, Call for President, Superman's Cape, Gold Professors, AKs and Curtains, H-Town, and Rogues the Buildmonger. Big up to y'all. Adrian Thomas, Electrician 480, Binga, Cutting Up with the Jones, Zanko, D. Scott, Path Guy, Pete Rock, Aaron Peters, Barnolis, and Dar. Big up. Big up to Vince Lindsay, Beautiful Trauma, Quiz the Poet, Black Wizard, Jaztec, Shadow Observer, Sugar T, Artisan MC, Troy Warren, and Mrs. KP Bailey, also Alan Wiley. Big up to y'all. The Face, Life of Commerce, Dreamlit, Timothy Blewett, Jeffrey Speed, Marvin Battle Jr., Adam, BGS Itmore, Ignatz Mouse, and Brian Peaks. Big up. Scott Haywood, Black Uru, Dr. Tree, Leroy Honeycutt, 77 Base X, Brian McMurray, Karen S., Charles Rogers, Rick Ross, Sandra Jean, and Charles Gilmore. Big up. Big up to Greg, Barry Little, Mr. Valentino, Cameron, Dr. Rock, Mark Swift, Odd Collar, Donna Watts, Coach Hotep, Old Soul Chief, and Mr. Blue Collar. Big up. Shout out to TD Hip Hop Media, Drew Main, Mr. Heat, Sir Anthony, MLR, Universal 178, Rasheed Barnes, Amber Smith, D. Ace, Red Pill Revelator, A Double, Dr. Tiasan Johnson, Kalonja Kala, excuse me, I tied and twisted that up. Kalonja Kala, Hostile 8 Up, then WPR1. Also, I can't forget Forrest Windu, David Carroll, and Kevin Sanders. Big up. Shout out on the Patreon side to Passport OG, J.E.K., Chris Flowers, Christopher Burton, Daxby, J Live, Rashawn Phillips, Keith Bass, Nick, Albert C., Dr. Ben Vincent, J. Cleveland Green, again, I'm the Light of My Father, Waffle Weave, Tyrone Hampton, Darnell Smith, Excalibur, Presuer Prisoner, Taz, Dragon 59, Jay Bailey, Mr. Meaty, Mo Mal in the same. Well, big up to all y'all, man. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for all your support and, moral encouragement over the years that I've been here. You deserve a round of applause. And if you want to, donate to the Green Gorilla channel on an ongoing basis, here's how you do it. We'll be back. What's good, everybody? I'm the G with a PhD, and you're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel, the place where black men can express themselves freely, straight up, no chaser. Today, I want to introduce you to my new membership program that consists of 5 levels where you can invest in the Green Gorilla channel on a monthly basis and receive level-specific perks. Memberships are special because they improve the quality of the content of the channel and will help me to be able to keep the channel going. Now, to participate in the Green Gorilla Channel membership program, all you have to do is hit the join button, which is located right next to the subscribe button on my channel page. Now, for all of my subscribers who decide not to participate in my membership program, nothing will change. The content will keep coming the way it always has. Thanks for watching, and be careful out here, people. Bless. All right, I'm back, man. You know, I brought a friend along, man. You know who he is. Sand Dog. What's cracking with you, bro?
Yo, what's going on, fam? I'm just chilling, man. Just crumbling herb.
Man, I don't crumble herb no more. I used to crumble herb. You know what I'm saying? I know you mean it metaphorically instead of literally, though. But yeah, I feel you, bro. Ain't nothing shaking but the leaves from the tree, man. Ain't nothing changed but the oil in the range.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, man. You know what I'm saying? So Ramadan is the day after tomorrow. So,
man, that's when you had to start fasting, correct?
Yeah, man. So I gotta, get you know what I'm saying, get in that state of mind. It's a chance to reset yourselves.
Yeah, man. Right? I mean, how difficult is that for you, man? Because what I've been doing is fasting once a week. And if you want information on the benefits that fasting can provide for you, I have a website, man, and you can look at you can look at the article and see. Let me show that to these guys right now before I even get started. Share the screen. Fasting once a week, good for men. Yeah, so I looked up some information, man, and a few studies that demonstrates the reasons why fasting actually. But I mean, of course, Ramadan is fasting every day, more so than you normally would. But but you are allowed to eat every day. I mean, it's not like you can't eat at all, right?
Yeah. So pretty much the fast period starts a little bit before the Fajr prayer at dawn, and then it ends in the evening. So between morning, twilight, and evening is when you're fasting. No food, no water.
Okay, cool. So I'm gonna post a link to this article about fasting, man. But I mean, there are a whole bunch of health benefits associated with fasting. I try to do it 24 hours once a week. You know what I'm saying? Like if I don't eat at 8 p.m., if the last meal I had was at 8 p.m., I won't eat again until 8 p.m. You understand what I mean? So and then I'll try to work out vigorously, maybe 10 hours. After like maybe 10 o'clock the next day, I'll probably work out, vigorously in order to try to lose any fat, that I might have, especially if like I'm trying to cut for the summertime or something like that.
Yeah.
But it improves your insulin sensitivity, reduces inflammation in your body. It helps to promote weight loss, improves your brain function. A lot of you guys get caught up in food comas. All that really is a spike of insulin. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It increases your longevity, meaning it helps you live longer, reduces blood pressure, takes care of the microbes in your gut. It boosts your immune system, helps to improve your sleep, and promotes autophagy, which is like your body recycling through dead cells. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So at any rate, that's just a sidebar, man. Just good information. You know what I mean? So
yeah, man.
So man.
So now, man, we're here today because I wanted to reach you and talk to you about just the manosphere in general, right? Because you're talking about what the manosphere is, where it's going, and where it's headed, and what I wanted to share with brothers in the space. I had this conversation with Mr. Z, nameless protagonist, and then you and I have talked about it. Behind the scenes, just recently on DC's show earlier today. And the thing about it is that what you're looking at right now in the manosphere space, you're in what's called manosphere 2.0, right? And so what happens is the manosphere specifically, or the black manosphere, specifically, is something that had to, from my perspective, it had to evolve a little before you could define it. And so when you get what BGS says in terms of, and what you say, a place where black men could speak freely, right? And talk about their issues, be it women, money, racism, the thing, or whatever phenomena that shapes our environment and our experiences, as Black men. And so one of the things, or what I believe the Black manosphere is, if you were to define it, it is a renaissance within the Black male community or ADOS community in regards to self-determinism, right? So when we had that last show with Dr. O'Neill, and you were talking about the Black man as the Messiah, right? This whole kind of self-sacrificing to the point of being self-destructive is what we would view as manhood, right? So, Sandog made it to the NBA. I got a $120 million contract. And for segments of Black America, keeping it real would be if I came back to the hood and spent $99.9 million, trying to raise the hood up, you know what I'm saying, or trying to save it, right? Or, destroying yourself to preserve, bad relationships, right? And so for us, for Black men specifically, red pill rage, in a sense, comes in a form of, that, if you had a different perspective or what our community may perceive as a more selfish perspective, you could kind of, you would be able to self-actualize. And once you self-actualize, define yourself, the way you move in your environment based upon that, instead of what the expectations of you are and what you're supposed to be. And one of the things, and so that's one. And what I wanted to talk about is that I believe that 3.0 and the next step of it, right? Once you kind of get out of the white noise of the women and red pill rage and all of this other stuff, is the manosphere, prior to Kevin Samuels and after Kevin Samuels for sure, is now having a pop culture, having an impact on pop culture, right? So it has entered American pop culture, and this is something that people are starting to talk about. Now,
So let me stop you right quick. So I want you to respond to this, right? So he, this is a brother in the chat. He says, I disagree with my brother Sandog. This space is a do-nothing space, meaning that, men in it don't do anything. It's just a space where brothers gossip, which means, like they talk about each other, and disagree all day. So, I mean, how do you respond to that? One of the things I want to say is that, look, let me keep that comment up, right? So you can have reference to it, and you don't have to dig and look for it. But, my view is that, that men are going to gossip anyway, even though they say that they don't do it, right? People are going to talk about each other, that's just par for the course. And some people in the space are really not doing very much. And then there's some people who actually are, or whatever the case may be. Now, it might not translate into what you think is, progressive action or whatever the case may be. I think that's what, a lot of brothers disagree about. But, it's one thing to disagree with somebody, right? And to, engage in, dialectic with individuals. It's another thing to be disagreeable. You know what I mean? It's one thing to, not like what somebody's saying. It's another thing to be disrespectful. You understand what I mean?
Correct. So,
like my whole thing is, and I've been disrespected in this space. And let me just say this, bro. I'm going to just keep it a real buck, like right here, right now, man. Like, I'm not looking for trouble from nobody, but if you want some trouble, man, I'm going to give it to you. I've always been this way. Like, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you want some static, bro, I'm going to give it to you, man. I don't back down for real, man. Like, it's very seldom in my life where I've run from a fight. Maybe once or twice ever. I'm not going to run from no challenge, bro. That's just not how I get down. Like, even if it's a bruh set, and you know what I'm saying, it's a bunch of bros, you don't even know them, and they hostile, I got a right to be here just like you, bro.
No.
You feel what I'm saying?
Correct.
So at the end of the day, man, I don't really take kindly to disrespect, because I know that initially all I do is exude and exemplify the quality of respect until you get disrespectful. But the funny thing is, and it's just tripped out to me in this space, right? That a guy can be disrespectful to you and then expect for you to handle the situation, with a degree of decorum and dispassionateness. Like that's something I owe you. Yeah. I don't owe no man no respect if he's disrespectful.
Correct.
That's just bottom line. Like if you coming at me, bruh, man, I'm gonna let your face beat up my hands, bro. It just is what it is. And another thing, I just want to say this, man. At the end of the day, bruh, me and you are both members of an organization, man. You know what the organization is, right?
Facts.
It's called Mega Sci-Fi. Now, no disrespect to the men in the manosphere at all, on any level at all, right? But let's just face the facts, man. That's a license to get pussy, man, from chicks, man. It just is what it is. I mean, not just ratchet bitches either. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm talking about like top-notch chicks, man. Yeah. It's a fucking passport to pussy in this here United States by being nasty and shit. I'm not even trying to be ignorant by saying that, man.
Yeah, but the caveat, like I said, again, the caveat to that, right? So, this space, because what I would say to Brother Jay Shine is that, so for example, if you look at Green Gorilla, if you look at BGS, and some of the other Art Nostal or some of the other brothers that's been in the space, what happens is that when you have a conversation that's happening between PhDs and professionals, because as of yet, the Black manosphere doesn't have a stratification of class or educational obtainment in terms of who gets to participate in the discussions, right? So unfortunately, what you can get on occasion a lot of time is people for the most part who either have a pop culture perspective or a low culture perspective on things, engaging people that they would never have the opportunity to talk to within their own daily circles, right? So, again, if I'm just your Joe Schmo dude, every day, how many guys on a regular basis get to damn argue with philosophers and analysts? Right.
Yeah, so, I mean, I get it, bro. Like, it doesn't happen. And look, I'm not the type of guy to try to throw any, like people say I enforce credentialism. Like I came on the other day, I made a show like, why me, bro? Like, why you want to test me?
But can I say something? But at the end of the day, and that's what I was trying to say about Manosphere 3.0. Because at the end of the day, right, there are times where you're gonna have to enforce credentialism, right? Because listen, what the Black manosphere has done, right, when you get to the core of it, aside from the white noise that we're talking about, not only has the Black manosphere entered pop culture, right? Historically speaking, Black people have entered pop culture by producing high culture, right? And that so again, high culture will be the culture that elites would want to participate in, right? So this is what the Rudy Poo of society gets into, right? So when you look at things from jazz, soul, R&B, or many different art forms that exist within America, or let's even start with hip hop, right? These things started out as folk culture. So folk culture is a specific group of people from a specific group of area or a specific area, and then it becomes a form of high culture, and then the mass culture, your media engines and all of that stuff, they get a hold of hip hop, and in order to control the imagery or the messaging of it, how do they actually defeat it, right? They defeat it by reducing it to a low culture. And so when you look at the manosphere, right? When BGS walks in the door as Black Gnostic speaks, right? We're talking culture. We're talking the history of the Black family, right? Same thing with guys like Code Breakers. Then enter the PhDs And so now the manosphere has this, it now has this kind of like intellectual nucleus or intellectual core to it. And so, the terminologies that are being used within the Black manosphere are now starting to become, in a sense, mainstream talking points. And what I wanted to discuss was that, now from my perspective, you're in the race to what's 3.0. And at some point, Western society is going to make its adjustment in terms of how it dealt with men in the advent of feminism, at least starting from the second wave, going forward. And so, as a result of some of these changes in the United States, let's say with feminism, deindustrialization, entering the digital and now artificial intelligence revolutions, you're getting a lot of segments of men globally, but especially in the United States, who are getting a taste of where Black men have always been. And my argument is that now that we have people like you, BGS, Dr. Tia Johnson, intellectuals like the nameless protagonist, when you look at 3.0, 3.0 is the solidification of all of this research and all of this discussion. And now that solidification, in a sense, becomes a political agenda, right? And so my concern is that when society gets ready to make its adjustments, right, that you could have African American men, sad and most unfortunately, who have spent decades identifying the systematic failures within the United States. So have you noticed, since the advent of the manosphere, right, people are even talking about crime differently. Whereas when a lot of these kind of societal failures were inherited by Black men, it was, that's just what niggas do, right? And now in the mainstream media, because other groups of men are now experiencing this, we're now starting to talk about institution and systemic problems and all of these other things. And so my idea is that when you evolve into 3.0, and we're understanding that the Black manosphere, there's white noise everywhere, right? So you got white noise in the Republican Party, white noise in the Democratic Party, but set that aside. This Black manosphere is a discussion or a focal point on African American male self-determinism, right? Or self-determinism, or Black male self-determinism, right? And so we're starting to decide for ourselves, what do we want out of politics? What do we want out of life? Et cetera, et cetera. Right. And so for me, the way that I imagine 3.0 is, now you're at the point where, again, and this is where conditionalism comes in, right? Because you can't have, if we get to the point where there's a panel with Stacey Abrams, Cory Booker, Sandog, Cory Booker, Stacey Abrams, Gigi, right? Gigi and Dr. Tia Johnson or Neil, sorry, Sandog can't come up there with his F these hoes and you remind me of my mama and everything else, right? So let
me interrupt you for a quick minute. So I'm just going through the comments, right? So Rael has a comment and he says, well, you got some brothers already who've ushered in the Black manosphere 3.0. And they said he says in this chat piece here, this sticker here, that they wanted to separate themselves from 2.0's nonsense. 2.0 is not the vanguard of evolutionary thinking Black men. Thought, I don't know. It's more of a chitlin circuit than evolution. So in other words, what he's saying is that there have been groups of people who want to distance themselves from what you would consider to be lower chakra thinking in relation to the Black manosphere. Because to be quite honest, like I said before, I've always said this even since I've come into the space, even though there are occasions when I talk about women or whatever the case may be, right? I said, look, my goal here is not to get you in a position to where these women love you now and they'll respect you now. My goal is not really actually to try to, create a new black culture. It's almost going to be impossible to do that in the context of a culture like this one. This is a liberal society that prides itself in people being able to determine their own life plans. And, it extols the virtue of negative liberty. So there's no way that you're going to create a culture that's going to, stick. There's nothing that you can do to make it stick. This is not like the medieval era and Islam is at its height and there's clerical authority, either in Europe or the Middle East, okay? This is contemporary Western culture where it is okay for you to call yourself a woman now if you're a man and to dissect and to chop your gonads. So that you can't force anybody to do anything, all right? That's one thing you got to be mindful of. So the only thing really that you can do is to argue and advocate for issues related to justice. That's the nomenclature that I think you're going to have to use. All this moral browbeating, what can you do to change a person's morality? In a pluralistic liberal society that says that anybody can believe what they want.
Correct.
Now, you can convince people, you can persuade persons, but this is why I'm going through the whole exercise with this book, Dark Ghettos by Tommy Shelby, Injustice, Dissent, and Reform. A lot of people think that they can perform this miracle move and change, incrementally the culture of the United States or black folks in the United States. How are you going to do that, bruh?
Yeah.
I'm just saying, as a practical means, you can't do it.
No, correct. And shout out to Rael, right? And that's what I'm saying. So for example, I'm here talking to a gentleman, right, who's a doctor of philosophy, right? And that's what I was talking about in terms of white noise. So again, within government or within corporations, right, we can compartmentalize certain things. So 1.0 still exists, right? 2.0 is the present, right? And you got brothers like Rael, who's in the Black Brain Trust, right? So either 3.0 in a sense is already here and simultaneously is yet to come, right? And so what I would say is that all of these things work together in tandem, right? And the reason why I say that is that, for the guys who are into what Rael and the other brother who commented are discussing about the gossip piece and all of that stuff, right? That all will come under low culture, right? So low culture refers to the habits, tastes, hobbies, and interests of the masses. It is contrasted to high culture, which is the culture of the upper class or the elite, right? The cultural beliefs and activities practiced by the masses, right? Which will be drinking cheap liquor, eating fast food, right? Idolizing pickup trucks, right? Pop music, gossip magazines, etc. Right? And so what I would offer as a solution is that, for the guys who are angry about what the chicks did yesterday, or, my mom wouldn't let me tie my shoelaces in the sunlight when I was coming up, not to belittle them. That's what 1.0 and 2.0 are for, right? And so what happens is you give those guys their space, right? And then the people who are on something else are in another space, and they, and at that point they have to regulate that space. And so that's what I'm saying. So now when you get the 3 because remember, 1.0 and 2.0 have done a lot of good. There's a lot of good work that's come out of that in terms of what would help us to make adjustments to our condition. So when you look at 3.0, for example, and I'm hypothetically speaking, right? So now at 3.0, what if we're like, okay, here's Dr. Tia Sanj Johnson 14-point plan, right? So wherever a guy falls under the political spectrum, right, we're looking at this 14-point plan. It could be 21 points by the time we're done with it, and we're looking at it and we're like, okay, this is now, for the first time since Reconstruction, probably a centralized body of politics or ideas or diplomacy in regards to black men and their wants and needs politically, right? And so guys from the right may have an approach to it, guys from the left may have an approach to it, guys who are independent, may have their approach, or people who are a little bit more corporate minded may have a particular approach to it. And so at the end of the day, all of these things work in tandem, because the people who think that okay, your 3.0 guys are awesome, nonsense, or the guys who are 1.0 are awesome nonsense. None of that will ever go away. These people exist, and they have spaces. There should be spaces for them to function and to be able to talk. But as you get to 3.0, right? Because when we talk, because remember, there's also another greater manosphere. And so what Sandog sees is at some point, governments are going to come to the table with men to say, okay, what do you need? What do we need to bring you back to the table? And my concern is that 3.0 should be shaped around the fact that finally, within American history, where African American men will get their fair cut. So, shout out to the Revolutionary War, right? Where we were, okay, do you side with the Continentals or do you side with the Loyalists, right? And at the end of the day, you didn't get what you were looking for, right? Hey, do we side with civil rights? Do we side with the North or the South in the Civil War? You still didn't get what you were looking for, right? And then, whatever factions or things that come out of the civil rights movement. So what I believe that 3.0 should be is 3.0 should be where we kind of finally shape what our universal value system is. And from that universal value system, right, you have your PhDs and the right professionals, and those guys are talking. So at the end of the day, when BGS, let's say if we somehow got Clarence Thomas to come on, right? So when Gigi and Tia-Son Johnson and O'Neal and BGS and Rael are talking to Clarence Thomas, good and damn well Sandog can't come up on that chat. Right, so that's a time where the chat gets turned, the comments are turned off, right? All of that stuff, and you could have a panel later. You could come back and discuss. That later. But once you get the 3.0, from my perspective, and onwards, because of the high culture contributions that the manosphere has made in terms of what's happening to society, right? For African American men, you cannot let the work of BGS, Rael, Art Nastal, basically our Gigi, you cannot let the work of our PhDs and professionals slip through our hands and then we don't benefit from it, just like other things have had in the past.
But let me just interject right quick. So I think I've always said that, post-Civil War Black America was an opportunity, great opportunity for, America to make good on its promise to liberty, justice, the regular life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, all of the creed, the ideology that it puts forth. It had an opportunity to say, okay, look, we started off with a practice that was pernicious, but now we've adapted and we've adopted, a disposition such that we know we cannot resume as the way we were. But I mean, here's the deal, man. I mean, the economy was based on slavery, bro. No way around it. So they couldn't just abandon it altogether. They still had to persist in exploiting black folks if they wanted their country to continue to prosper. So they had to create sharecropping. Okay.
Yes.
There's no way around it. So, but black folks had this mindset, but white people had this mindset. Just think about what was going on in 1860 or the 1865s. How were people moving around the country? The country wasn't already infrastructurally developed like it is today. Okay. Yeah, you had cities, major cities, Chicago, St. Louis. You had, the West was beginning to be settled. The South, of course, had already been to some degree settled. The North, but it was still a burgeoning place infrastructurally. You know what I mean? We're talking about a country at the time that was less than 100 years old. So, the country hadn't really cut its teeth then. So, black people, this was a time when there were like gold rushes and oil rushes and, opportunity was abound, okay? And not to say that there's no opportunity now, but the very nature of the market has changed radically. This is not like, okay, we're giving out land to people now. This is a consumer-based, service-based economy. And the market is a financialized entity, or the economy is financialized. This is a whole different animal that we're dealing with today, So, it's just, and he says the biggest obstacle to black economic expansion post-slavery up to now has been the black intelligentsia class like Du Bois and others who undermine Booker T and Garvey. And I just don't see it as them being undermining of Booker T. I just don't see how he was undermined. In fact, white people undermine black folks in their progress. We keep acting like black people are like preventing each other because they have differences of opinions and viewpoints, like we've been our biggest impediment to our own success. I don't think that's a very convincing argument. Like did Du Bois by himself unilaterally stop black industry? How would he have been able to do so? Mm-hmm. I'm just asking the question, like, how could one man or a group of men who, seek to, abide by the practices of one group of white guys, because all education in the higher intelligentsia is an approximation and kind of like a mimicking of what, white men in the academy do. But I do want to drop the link for him. Now we're not going to stay stuck on it, but I do want to have this conversation with him to some degree. But like, how can one man prevent, or a small group of men prevent an entire industry, a group of industrious blacks? If they're going to be industrious, they're going to be industrious. But what happened to Tulsa? What happened to Rosewood? The point is, and this is the argument, right, that I'm making. Like, it didn't matter if black people had all the industry in the world. It doesn't matter. I mean, it does matter to a certain extent if you're allowed to buy into investing in America and they will allow you to be able to keep what it is that you've earned from the sweat of your brow or through your agency and industry. But white folks weren't about to let Negroes have nothing. They took it, destroyed it. We talking about East St. Louis. They just destroyed a whole town, burgeoning full of successful black folks engaged in industry. Again, they did it in Tulsa.
Highway Commission Act, 55.
I mean, and it's not to say that, there wasn't like an ideological rift between these two guys, but I mean, we oversimplify this, I think. At the end of the day, you can make all the money in the world. If a white man doesn't believe that you're his moral or political equal, he can take it. He can just, hey, let me get that. Thank you for earning that. I saw the efforts and the energy you put into that, but that's mine. Thank you. But run along now, nigger. I mean, go ahead, Rael, man. I'm interested to hear what you have to say about this.
Thanks for having me. Peace to the panel and chat. Peace and
peace to you, sir.
I'm going to be real quick. I've been doing a lot of research on Booker T. Washington, and the Black Brain Trust will be actually doing a presentation on Booker T. Washington, probably this weekend, probably Sunday. And one of the things that has been actually very surprising, actually shocking, is that post-slavery, this idea that Black people because whenever you get to the discussion of business and money, there's this common thought amongst Black people that Black people don't have the wherewithal to work together, especially when it comes to money and finances, to build businesses and things of that sort. And one of the things that I found out that even amongst the poorest classes of Black people, the actual common consciousness of the times after slavery, especially post Reconstruction, was the idea that Black people recognized that they needed to be financially stable. Many Black people with hardly no education whatsoever had a business mindset. So, for example, if you get to 1900, there were almost 800,000 Black-owned farms in the United States. Okay, 35 years after slavery, Black people were not only getting land, they were doing it in spite of not getting the support from the Freedmen's Bureau that was supposed to be there to support them post-slavery. And what you find in somebody like Booker T. Washington, you have in 1881, Tuskegee is founded. 1892, you have the Tuskegee Farmers Conference, which was something that Du Bois, along with George Washington Carver, went through the South, showing Black men, and even white men were taking these classes, showing Black men how to improve their farming techniques, how to rotate crops, to make sure that the soil was nutrient rich enough to keep growing specific crops.
Rael, could you talk a little bit closer to the mic? It sounds like you're speaking in an echo chamber. I'm just asking you if it's possible for you to remedy that.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, just get a little closer to the microphone if you can. That's all.
What about
You don't
now?
have to speak you don't have to speak any louder. It just sounds like you're in a vacuum. That's all. Go ahead.
Okay. What you will find. What about now?
Yeah, it's better than what it was.
What about now?
Yeah, it sounds much better than what it was. Go ahead.
Okay. So now you have the Tuskegee Farmers Conference that had him going through the South helping Black men. Tuskegee wasn't just about helping Black men learn trades. This is one of the most profound things that I found out in the research that I've done so far. Tuskegee was not just about Black men learning trades. Tuskegee was also for Black men to learn trade and learn business concepts to become entrepreneurs. Booker T. Washington was trying to get Black men to be entrepreneurs in their community because Black people were a newly freed class, Black people became a market to market products to. And one of the things he and George Washington Carver understood was they needed to actually get control of the Black market because they understood that once we became the dominant force in the Black market, we could go to other markets and compete and possibly dominate in other markets. And so now you have the National Negro Business League that comes in 1900. And this was the template that Theodore Roosevelt used to set up the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, which now is the largest business organization in the world. So the National Negro Business League was a template that this white man used to set up the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Now, a lot of Black people.
Let me stop you here. So, okay, I think I understand where the argument is going because what we don't want to do is just get stuck with a whole, and not see the forest for the trees. So in other words, the whole argument is that you think that entrepreneur, business, and trade is a much better route to take than the humanities and, becoming educated and so on and so forth. Like the route that Black people should have taken is the route to entrepreneurship and industry, whereas, intelligentsia and learning is something that, really doesn't build or yield fruit for the most part, right? I think that's the essence of the argument, correct?
No, that's not it.
Okay, well, yeah.
That's not it. The argument that I'm making is, if you look at the history between Booker T. Washington and Du Bois, for example, Booker T. Washington asked Du Bois twice to come to Tuskegee and teach at the institute. He was never against higher learning in that particular capacity. His modus operandi was, in order for us to actually be really able to actually secure our rights in terms of being able to utilize them, we're going to have a foundation that we build in terms of an economy. Okay, just like every other group of people. The main reason why immigrants come to the United States is for what? For more economic opportunities. And then they do what? They typically build their own Chinatown, their own Germantown, or whatever the case may be. He understood, like most other groups of people understand, and we understood at a certain point, that that's how you get to the bag. So, for example, in Alabama, when they first set up Tuskegee, they wasn't getting appropriations from the state. And one of the guys that he had working with him at Tuskegee, he went to two Democratic officials who were running for re-election, and he promised them that he would secure the black vote for them if they agreed to bring it up in the legislature, that they would get appropriations. So they ended up winning, and they pushed for the appropriations to come to Tuskegee, so they would have state funding like the other schools were getting. So he was never against the politics or anything like that. He was saying that that's not the strategy to move forward initially, because we did find ourselves post the Reconstruction, finding ourselves being under attack. So he knew that we needed an economy, and this is what he was trying to push, and letting the business endeavors strengthen the community, so we would have the money to influence people on a political level, which is what he was doing behind the scenes on a lot of things.
So Sandal, how do you respond to that, bro?
Yeah. So look, I don't disagree with it, but where my perspective comes in, because he's spitting facts, but where my perspective comes in is that the dominant society within itself wouldn't want these things to happen. So it kind of goes back to your point of, Lanier, Georgia, Tulsa, Oklahoma, the FBI with Marcus Garvey, and then later COINTELPRO, and all of these other types of government programs. Because again, many of you who talk to me, I say that we should have left, that it would be impossible. So I would have been one, if I was living at that time, to say that it's impossible to achieve any level of humanity here, let alone any equality. So, and then, there were a lot of things that also happened where the government would have, in a sense, turned a blind eye to it and let things ride, right? Especially with the growth of the Ku Klux Klan. So you got people destroying black towns. You got black people being, terrorized, during the Red Summer, when they're just trying to come out of the South and look for jobs. Black people are excluded from being able. So when the U.S. government now starts to subsidize people and create what's now the middle class, and the African American demographic is excluded from it. I think, for me personally, I think that the violence that was permitted, by the government, be it state or federal, and also the the violence being permitted, be it state or federal, I think in a sense would have put it would have hampered a lot of that progress that's being built. So that I'm just struggling to kind of understand, how would we be able to defend, and how would we have been able to defend and maintain that, especially during the Jim Crow era. You know what I'm
So
saying? You know,
also there is Dessalines is in the chat, and one of the things he says is that people interpret the relationship between Du Bois and Booker T. Washington as deeply adversarial because they wrote letters back and forth where they disagreed. Nonetheless, he says that there's a scholar at Howard University who recently just had a conversation, I guess, in the public purview about the way we blow up their disagreements as opposed to the ways that they actually kind of concurred on various issues. Now, I'm not like an expert on Booker T. Washington or W.E.B. Du Bois, but like suffice it to say, in their respects, I think both of them were right in their own way. I don't perceive black politics as an either or. You know what I mean? Like we have to have a monofocal or homogeneous strategy in order to achieve any objectives or goals related to our own, progression. And white people don't do it. It's just not how business is done. Like ever since white people had a government, they had disagreements amongst themselves. There was never like some homogeneous strategy that they abided by. They've always been at, like odds with each other, but they find a way to compromise and to get work done, right? Because they have a system, a set of political institutions that allow them to get things done amidst their disagreement. We don't have that. That's the issue. And like my whole thing is, I kind of agree to some degree with saying, dog. I believe that if we were allowed to just persist and to allow our natural talents and industriousness to, be what it is, unhampered, I don't think we would even be in this quagmire. To be perfectly honest, I mean, of course, I will say this. If you look at the economy now, yeah, you got some entrepreneurs here and there, but they're not like the big entrepreneurs and the big speculators and investors during the gold rush era or the era of like the oil rush era. This is a whole different animal that we're dealing with now. So then the question becomes, what type of strategy can black people utilize now in order to improve their condition economically and socially? What can we do now? So,
Well, let me say that. Let me say this. The main purpose of Du Bois setting up the NAACP was to actually go against Booker T's position. That was the main purpose. Okay. So even though they were friendly on terms, he made the decision, and this is to me where this either or mindset comes from. It comes from this split, because when Du Bois set himself apart, what he did was he made it seem as if Booker T. Washington was not about the full expression of civil rights during that time. Booker T. Washington's mentality was strategy. It wasn't that he didn't think it was important. His mindset was, how do we best get there? And so he used a lot of Du Bois's social science research from Harvard. He used a lot of that to teach at Tuskegee. So he didn't have anything against Du Bois in that kind of way. He had an appreciation for the intellect, but he understood the condition that black people were in, especially black men. That's why you see the institutions that he built specifically for black men. He built the kind of institutions that, at the end of the day, Tuskegee is still around. Du Bois don't have an institution that he left behind. The proof is in the works. And the reality of the situation is, when you see black people back then becoming so successful, going from sharecropper to farm owners to entrepreneurs, to the point that they were hiring white people to work for them, then you can clearly see that in spite of the limitations that black people had during that time, especially when you're talking about we had almost 800,000 farms, then you understand that we were moving in the right direction. Du Bois is the one who caused the split because he made it an either or proposition. So now when we have these debates, you have people that say, well, if you choose to go the money route, then you're a sellout and you ain't got no integrity. That's not true. Because if you look at the works that Booker T. Washington did, his philosophy, and he was groomed in a community-centric philosophy. His business philosophy was literally tasked with how can we build institutions that best serve Black people. So this idea that he was not, he was an accommodationist and things like that. Behind the scenes, he funded certain things from a political level. So he was fighting multiple fronts, and that's why he had to strategize the way that he did. And this strategy provided results for Black people, especially Black men. We needed something like a Tuskegee during that time. We needed something like that that could usher us in to the new industrial, the industrial age that was taking hold, so we could build our own communities. Which I mean, we built cities left and right in the United States. So we had that.
So let me stop you here, bro. Like, because I don't want to, like, the show is not about E.B. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington. That's not the context of which what we're doing here. However, I did want to accommodate you for a little while in order to understand where it is that you're going, right?
Well, because it's explaining what you were talking about earlier in terms of the either or proposition. It shouldn't be an either or proposition.
Yeah, but it shouldn't be an either or proposition. But this is my whole thing. Like, I love studying history. I get it. I understand it. We're talking about the Black manosphere right now, and then the question arises like, okay, what do Black men right now do in order to improve their condition? Now, we can go back and look at what Booker T. Washington did, what W.E.B. Du Bois did, the trajectory that the country took, the Black community took, the Black men took, that the civil rights movement took, as opposed to what Washington was looking to do and to accomplish and to achieve. I mean, so then the question becomes like, what do we do now?
Yeah, well, I think that's the thing, right? So I was looking at Complex Design was saying that 3.0 has been around since 2018. So I think the idea is kind of like what Rael was talking about, was kind of like, in a sense, picking up in a sense where Booker T. Washington left off. Because, so for example, if you look at everything that he was explaining about Booker T. Washington, and Rael, if you're still in the chat, correct me if I'm wrong, right? That will be a lot like how the Asian community looks today, right? So the Asian community is not a massive voting bloc. I don't think they vote much at all, at least to my knowledge. But however, their economic power is what gives them a degree of sway, or a lot of sway in American politics, right? So along with other communities who have put their money politically in the right places, right? So whereas W.E.B. Du Bois' approach would have been, okay, let's kick the door down and make America America. Booker T. Washington would have been the one like, okay, let's get our ducks in a row and let's get our money right, and having a lobbyist, and having the right types of lobby and special interest groups, right, are just as important to voting, if not more important, right? Or having certain people in office, but kind of coming back in a sense to what we were in a sense of what we were talking about, and this is what I'm trying to say. So there have been spaces, right, and times in 2.0 where people have had these discussions. So even for those of you who follow this channel, me, Gigi, and Nameless, right, we have taken and we've had this discussion. But what happens is, especially in our space, in the manosphere in 2.0, you got panels that run 5 and 6 hours long. So what may happen is that if you're in a panel, maybe for the first hour or two or 30 minutes or so of that panel is one particular subject, right? And then somebody, some sand dog will come up on the panel and be like, yo, I love blonde weaves, and that just changes the trajectory. That just changes the trajectory of of what of what we were talking about. So when you have panels that are like 4 or 5 hours long, then of course you can go from things that are very serious, very high culture, into barbershop talk, so to speak, right? But my thing is that out of each phase, um, in the manosphere, there has been a lot of good work being done, and what's happening is that, again, because remember, especially now in America, right? Kind of like the decline of Rome, right? We're getting more bread and circus, and so as a result of that, right? Again, what's happening in pop culture, or sadly, most unfortunately, in the lower culture, now has access to American politics. And so, shout out to Complex Design, and shout out to Rael. As a matter of fact, if you guys can put it in the chat, is it called Black Brain Trust? Maybe I'll, inshallah, I could come and I could show up there. I could start to show up there, man, and then and politic with you guys more, more than I have, obviously not at all, but I could start the politic with you, you know what I'm saying, and talk and exchange ideas, right? But the thing is,
that's cool. So
yeah.
let me read the super chat from Black Wealth and Power. He says he's a Generation Z black man. What age is he? Like 30 or something like that?
1997, man. So anybody born from like the late 90s, the end of the 20th century. So 97 on. 97,
so he's about 30. He's about 30 something, right?
No, he'd be 20 at the at the oldest he'd be like in his late 20s.
Okay, so he says he's a young black man under 30, and he always makes the argument to his friends on campus. And I guess he's, I don't know what campus he's on, but he says that black men of past generation, civil rights included, were far more masculine and productive than we are today. And look, black men in the past, I guess, were more masculine, had more testosterone. That's even been proven, like, empirically, that, the country is undergoing a shift. For a variety of different reasons. I don't know if it's the plastics. You know what I mean?
That's a backfire of technology. So, for example, yes, Sandog lifted weights, Q-Dog and everything else and all of that stuff, right? But when I was 15, I had a room full of comic books, listening to Tribe Called Quest, playing video games with my little brother, right? At the age of 15, with my little brothers. But if you go back to 10 AD, Sandog, who was 15, right? I done fought 5 tribal wars. I got 3 wives and 8 kids, right? And I died at the age of 30 from a fucking mosquito bite, right? So, there's something about tech, at least from Sandog's mere observation, right, which would require years of study, so to speak. But it appears that there's something about technology and the increased convenience or comfort of human beings that kind of takes away from our evolution, so to speak, right? So I got little nieces here, man, who are 5, 6, 7 years old, and I'm watching them go to school in the 2nd grade and all that stuff. But if you put them back in 10 AD, those same little girls are walking 5 miles with their mother, right, carrying water and learning how to be somebody's wife. As a matter of fact, they might already be promised to somebody, right? So as the environment changes, so does man's culture. So even our relationship with God changed. So when we were hunter-gatherers, we had this relationship with God. When the agricultural revolution came in, we had this relationship with God. And now we have to figure out what are the new rules are going to be for the current age that we're living in.
Well, we live in a technological age of being, man. Or yeah. That's where we are now. And I've seen guys make statements about technology, and look, I think that technology in and of itself is cool. What technology does is it allows people to do things without having skill. That's what technology actually does, right? Or to
Yes.
to utilize like sweat equity in order to achieve the goal, right? So that's what technology does. It decreases your ability to labor in order to, to make a process easier to perform, or, so that the objective of the process is shortened or made much easier. And so, like, but what technology does is it takes away people's skills, man. That's just a fact of what technology does, right? So you don't have to know how to cook anymore. You could just put some stuff in the microwave, right? You don't have to actually know how to play music anymore. You could just, use your synthesizer and take chords from, an application that lays out all of the chords in the scale for you. You don't have to know how to do it. You don't have to develop or acquire the skill to be able to do it. All you have to do is just rely upon the technology. The same with like something like ChatGPT. You don't have to know how to write anymore. All you have to do is just give the technology a series of prompts and it'll kick out something for you. But then the question is, if everything is provided for you by technology, then what happens to the skill of basic humanity? Like, how do you develop excellence? Because one could argue that that's what humanity is.
Correct.
The type of humans or the type of animals that have the ability to develop excellences and to put them on display. Look at what I can do. And it's not always about productivity or efficiency either. Okay? Like say for example, a Japanese carpenter. He's not looking to build the most, productive edifice. He's looking to build the most aesthetically pleasing and durable edifice. He's not looking to make a quick buck. He's not looking to, create something that's cookie cutter. He's looking to put art and skill into what he's doing, right? But today, it's like technology is great. I'm not saying that it's not great. I don't say we need to get rid of it. But technology, what it does is, and this is why I keep making a reference to like the philosopher Martin Heidegger. He says, look, technology, it's all about efficiency and control, but what it does is it reduces everything that you see in the world to like something that's called, the way he would, describe it, is standing reserve. Everything is something that's standing in reserve to be utilized like gas in a gas station. Like we got oil reserves. It's just there ready, like land is ready to be utilized in order to capitalize off of. There's nothing sacred about it. There's nothing that should be partitioned off and preserved so that it's holy or that it's, something that should be qualitatively different from other tracts of land. Everything just becomes level. You understand what I'm saying? And he says the other effect is it reduces human beings to resources.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate. The only thing that's valuable is something that has a potential to be utilized efficiently and productively. And not to say that, productivity is a bad thing, but there are times when you have to pull back from that and say, okay, well, the process that I'm undergoing might not be productive, but this is excellent and it's worthy of being perceived and looked at and marveled at by other people. But maybe I'm getting a little too abstract here and too philosophical.
Yeah,
but
because the thing about it, man, like when you look at the manosphere in its totality, right? And again, shout out to Malcolm X, right? Because again, when Malcolm X was talking about it, right? Again, there are, historically speaking, there have always been several Black Americas, right? So what Malcolm X will refer to as, the Negro masses. So, okay, that's fine. Sandog has a higher education, right? Right now, Sandog is trying to get into Oxford University so he could study diplomacy and public policy, right? So my life perspective and my wants and needs may be very different than a Black man that's in that's in a different space, right? Because, once you get into, like after what Rael was talking about before, once you get into especially post-integration, right? Because remember, fresh out of slavery, for the most part, Black people have had a common experience with the system. Now we're not all having common experiences, right? Again, based upon what region you live or whatever socioeconomic class in which you fall under. And so what I wouldn't want to do in regards to ensuring that that we take advantage of this pop culture momentum that we have in order to obtain political booms of it from the future. The reason why I believe that 1.0 and 2.0 are still important is because, again, that, what I'm saying, that gives whatever group of men they are, whether it's me, because I can't sit and dissect who's what, here and there, but whether it's me or anybody else, that gives those group of men the ability to, like I said, to voice their concerns, right? So if we were to have, and that will be the thing, right? So if we were to have kind of like, okay, here's Dr. Tiasan Johnson's, his labor as a kind of like as a central thing, then you would be able to understand, okay, for this demographic of Black men, they have these concerns, right? For this demographic of Black men, they have these concerns, because even in the evolution of this, I do not want what happened to African American women or women of color and feminism to happen to us. Right?
So let me stop right. So yeah. One of the things I want to do is I want to sit and read some of these super chats. So shout out to Leon. He says, GG, what I fear with the advancement of technology is that it gives me the time to think way too much. That's funny. And Distinguished Legacy says, I was just telling my pops that I've made it through the first semester of my PhD program. Congratulations, young man. Without going to the library, and I don't know how you did that. I guess you used the internet. But he says, that was unheard of 20 years ago. You're preaching, GG. More efficient people equals less skilled people. And look, all I'm trying to do is make the basic case. This is not difficult to understand. People tend, like especially capitalists, man, tend to think of the world as like, okay, all it is productivity, efficiency, make a profit. Okay? Hey, man, fine. Go ahead and do it. Not problematic. But like a person like Martin Heidegger, that's why I keep making a reference to this guy. Yeah. He doesn't think waste is good. Actually, he thinks that you get more waste by trying to not get waste to begin with. So like, how does that happen? He's like, look, he's critical of modern industrial society because he says that it's really actually characterized by a culture of waste and technological domination over nature. Okay? And he says that this culture of waste is just fundamentally flawed. And it comes from the way you think about the world and the way you enframe being itself, how you perceive being itself. He says, look, modern technology has created the mindset that natural resources or the natural world is nothing more than a resource to be exploited for human purposes. And so it leads to the commodification and the objectification of nature. And it leads to a culture of waste in which resources are actually squandered and the natural world is degraded and polluted. It ain't no strange secret, man. Like plastics are efficient. But what do they do to the world? What do they do to human beings? One can argue, like I just mentioned this the other day, I love technology, right? But at the same time, technology has, especially if there's no forethought in it, and it's only done for the sake of more productivity and more efficiency, then like, what are the consequences and the drawbacks to that? If everything is just about productivity and efficiency, well, like, is there any time to rest? Is there any time to take back like Ramadan? That's a time of rest and reflection, is it not?
Correct.
It's time for you to say, okay, look, it's not to say that there's never a time to make a profit, but there are times when you got to say, hey, look, it's time for me to rest. It's time for us to stop thinking about profit and framing the world as something to be utilized and exploited and objectified and commodified, and it's time to look at it as the thing from which we come. It's the source of our genesis.
Yes.
We emerge out of it. It's not something for us to just utilize in order to make cash incessantly, to incessantly and efficiently do more and more. And to what our society ends up looking like Chicago and, before OSHA laws and shit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying
there were even debt jubilees, right? Before the Roman Empire did away with it, right? You would have after so many years, debts would be forgiven, man, and people would have a free start and to be able to start over. Because
so what look, all I'm trying to do is make this point. So like, there are people in philosophy who say, look, if the only thing that you do is you look at something, a person or nature itself, in terms of its usefulness or what it can get you instrumentally, then it's a problem, because we probably need a new way of thinking where we recognize that the natural world actually has intrinsic value. It's not just about how can, like we put more land, develop it, slap suburbs over it, and, put like Hardee's and Walmarts and shit. Hardee's doesn't exist anymore, but like Whataburgers and McDonald's and shit. Like, well, hold on, man. Maybe there's something about attractive land itself that needs to be preserved and needs to probably be left undeveloped to a certain extent, or at least cultivated, not just for the sake of it being like exploited for fiduciary gain, but because it's a place where people can rest and enjoy aesthetics and just, like have leisure time. No, not to say that you don't get your bread, but goddamn, you can't all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, man.
Yeah. But
that's all we saying. And look, I have no problem with productivity and efficiency, but the whole point is, like, how far are you willing to go with it? That's it. That's all. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to be aware of technology and the impact that it has on us. Like, I remember when I was a kid, man. I'm almost 52. I'll be 52 in May. I remember on Sundays, man, the stores were closed, bro.
Yeah.
The stores were closed. I mean, the internet didn't exist.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying? Like, if you had a job on Sunday, you didn't work. It was a time where nobody did anything on a Sunday. For real. I mean, yeah, you might have had some. Every now and then, a fast food restaurant might be open, but like people weren't hustling and bustling all day, every day.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, like, it's not about being lazy. It has nothing to do with being lazy.
Yeah.
Like, a Japanese carpenter is not lazy, who builds traditional structures is not lazy. But he won't just take any wood. He's going to go to the forest and look for the best wood. You go to Home Depot, you just get any kind of wood.
Yeah.
This, uniformly built, no actual discernment of what's qualitative over what's, efficient. It's just like, okay, this is how we build houses in America. You build like suburb, all the houses look the same, built by the same developers. So you need technology, but you have to put it in its proper perspective. That's all. That's all we're saying, man.
Yeah.
So anyway, man,
Yeah. So like even and that's what I was trying to get at, because, one of the good things about the manosphere, right, although it could be a complaint, for many of us, is that you do get this interaction of men from all walks of life, right? Because what you don't want to do is, again, evolving out of pop culture into a, kind of like, into a, a space. So for those of us who are going to do that in terms of a space, talking about, the needs or desires of Black men, what we don't want to do, right, in terms of, I may be smarter than this guy or more educated than this guy. We don't want to become the Burgesses of Virginia, right? And then we end up, with classes of people that, that we look at as indentured servants or or serfs or anything like that. And then we'll make the same mistake that our European brothers did when they came over here, which is, in a sense, replicate what they left behind in Europe. So I think, although I believe that there has to be stratification. So again, at the end of the day, if Green Gorilla and Dr. Neil are talking, and I'm just throwing out there, and you guys are talking to Kamala Harris or a Barack Obama or whatever the case might be, for the most part, right? That is a closed. That's a closed panel. The chats or whatever are off because now you have, you have people, right, who are, you have people who are, who are engaging each other, right? At a certain level or specific level, and then kind of like how they used to do on TV, right? You could leave, you could leave spaces for questions and answers where people could come up and all of that other kind of stuff. But all you would have to do is, in a sense, is that you would have to change the rules on how you engage or how you actually run a debate. So for the most part, right now in the space that, especially when you have panels, these are freestyle conversations. But when you go to a lot of guys where they make their individual content outside of a panel, especially then, there's a lot of good work, man. There's a lot of good work out there, and a lot of nuggets of wisdom that I believe that we shouldn't have, to the wayside. So again, yes, Sandog is in a certain industry, and I'm in logistics and FMCG, so I'm down with blockchain and just-in-time logistics and all of that. So I'm there, right? But for a brother that lives in Philly and you know what I'm saying, and puts together, and he may work in a factory where he's putting together a car, you know what I'm saying, or helping to make microchips or whatever it is. Again, within the society that we have, he has just as much as of a right to voice his concerns and his ideas, as Sandog does, because again, Sandog is not interested in becoming another house of the Burgesses, so to speak, right? And so, we all, so like 1.0, 2.0, a 3.0, I guess, if it's already out there, right? When if there's a centralized value system to speak from, then it makes the conversation a little bit more organized and clearer about what men are looking for, despite where they fall demographically. So that's one of the things that I would not want to, that I wouldn't want to get caught up in terms of, saying that, okay, because I have this level of education or this work experience or, whatever, that what I have to say is actually more valid than anyone else, right? So it's just, there are times and places to have certain types of conversations.
So, like, I just want guys to know, man, when it comes to, my thoughts about, like, what's going on with the economy and how black people can find a way into it, like, I just want you to know, man, like, we don't live in an industrial economy anymore. It's unfortunate, but we don't have an industrial economy at large. We just don't. There's not very much industry taking place in the United States. This is just a fact, okay? So what you have is something called the financialization of the economy. And I am plugging out my own website here, but so like, just so you know, how people are making money today, and I'm gonna put the link to this in here. How are people making money today, okay? Well, what they're doing actually, I wish this thing would finally come online. Just for some reason, there it goes. Okay, so ultimately, what's being done is you got people basically, using like financial instruments. You got people speculating, using leverage, consolidating debt. I mean, you don't have like a basic brick and mortar company system like based on industry and manufacturing anymore. Nobody's manufacturing shit. They're outsourcing the manufacturing to Indonesia, to Mexico, to China. So there's nobody making shit in America anymore. Not for real. I mean, you might have like the car companies or whatever the case may be, but even they are on the down tick. Okay? You got people, buying debt and consolidating debt through securities and shit like that. That's how people are making money today, through financial instruments. So, all I can say is it's an entirely different system of money making. Right? And you got to understand, man, this is like, it's a different game now. And the question is, like, how do you get in the game now? What can you do? Bro, like, man, Complex Design say we make electronic bikes. Like, bro, how many motherfuckers no disrespect, how many people got an electric bike, bro? Man, I'm just saying, bro. You know what I mean? Like
you would need an overhaul in your educational system. Right?
You would need to change the infrastructure of how people transportation or the transportation system. Because like I live in a town where it's not even bike friendly. And you live on the West Coast, so like this is a whole different. Like you come to Texas, ain't no bike lanes in Texas, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like they might have bike lanes in like Chicago. They might have bike lanes in like St. Louis. They just put bike lanes in St. Louis, but bro, there ain't a bike lane in Texas, bro. You come here with a bike, man, you getting rolled over. Oh man, but hey, look. I get it though. I know LA is a different animal. That's a unique place. Okay? And the traffic in LA has been horrendous since the early 2000s. The late 90s traffic in LA has been terrible. Oh my God, man. I love LA. I ain't gonna lie. I love it. I love LA. But good Lord, man, I love fat burgers. I like Quick and Split. I love In-N-Out Burger. I like going to Roscoe's Chicken and Waffle. But man, your traffic is terrible. But anyway, at the end of the day, man, all I can say is I'm not here to make the manosphere one thing or another. I personally, okay? The only thing I don't want to do anymore, man, is get into lower chakra conversations with guys. Like from now on, if it's the case that you don't like what I'm doing or you feel like the content that I create is, I'm not, look, I'm in Houston, bro. You know what I'm saying? So maybe in Austin they got them, which is a little small college town and shit with the University of the Longhorns or some shit, but not here in old Houston, bro. Not at all. I'm around a university right now with a whole bunch of college students. You say near the Galleria, that's one area. Hey, look, they ain't even there yet, man. Hey, look, they ain't hey, bro, it's a hell of a place down here, man. All I can say is, hey, we ain't got the bike lane memo. And then, like, I don't believe in electronic bikes anyway, though. I ain't gonna lie. I'm not riding an electronic bike, man. I gotta get my heart rate up. If I'm gonna ride a bicycle, I'm gonna ride it so it's gonna provide and give me some sort of health benefit. You know what I'm saying? That's just, you know what I'm saying? No, ain't no bike lanes around the Galleria, my bruh. No, sir. Not that I've seen. They'll run your ass over. But anyway, like my whole thing is like, look, I'm not here to tell black men what to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, or where they should go, or how they should act, or what they need to be doing.
Yeah, but that's not, like I said, that's not my thing either. It's just that my My concern was that, again, like the kind of like what happens, in the States, right? I've seen a cycle, and again, it's just observation wise, where you would have a form of high culture being produced, then it goes mainstream, and then to take away the potency of it, right? Once it goes mainstream, then it's taken and now put into low, kind of put into low culture, right? So, when hip hop first came out, right, it will be the music of revolution, right? Same thing with certain forms of rock and roll, right? And then, the mass culture will get a hold of it, right? And start putting out, very cookie cutter things, or whatever, and then it gets out to the masses, and it does what it does, right? So instead of being something revolutionary in a sense, you kind of just now get absorbed into the system, so to speak, right? So like I doubt in today's time you could actually see another John Lennon, right? Based upon how these systems work now. And so the way these systems work now, I don't even think that you can even produce one. Like I could be, like I said, again, Sandog could be wrong. It's just simply based on my observation. So I'm not here just trying to tell people where they should go or how, or I'm just presenting ideas, because what I believe is that at some point, right, especially, I mean, look at the United Kingdom, right? The United Kingdom made a lot of adjustments, especially with its citizens, when it was no longer interested in empire, right? So once the United Kingdom handed the reins to America and say, okay, you got the car now, that society made several adjustments. And so at the end of the day, for any society to run, you still need men. And a lot of what has come out of the manospheres certainly will be, in the future, will be political talking points, which may become laws that facilitate resources, right, from men in certain ways. And I wouldn't, I'm just concerned, or I would like to finally see, for African American men, in a sense, to receive, the rewards or the boons for their labor, right? So again, how that's all going to shape out and everything else, again, like I said, Sandog doesn't know. Like this is just a discussion, and as of now, and then just spitballing ideas, so to speak. But the other parts of what we call the lower chakra stuff, those guys aren't going nowhere. They will always exist, right? As a matter of fact, right now, right, somebody just caught his girlfriend on her knees with somebody else, and 10 more of them will be on the panel tomorrow, right? So it's, what I'm saying? But when you get to what certain guys are talking about in the space, I think that there are certain sectors or nucleuses that we have been discussed that we need to, in a sense, remain at the forefront of the discussion on. And when the politics then comes around to it, and people want to evolve from rhetoric to discussion to ultimately policy. Like I said, I'm just saying that going forward, we may have to start looking at what we need to do to be at the table when that happens, so we're not left behind the same way we were in the Revolutionary War or at other parts in American history.
For sure, bro. Like what's we at an hour and 33 minutes in.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, good contribution, bro. If anybody wants to come up and make any comments now, they can, because we're gonna we ain't gonna carry this thing. This ain't gonna be like a 3 hour show tonight, man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Those are tiring, bro. And then like a lot of times it's not really it's non-productive. If you want to talk about productivity anyway. So so having said that, like, okay, so let me just say this. This is, if you want to know how to get into the economy in the United States, this is what like the United States does at the present moment. Okay, in terms of manufacturing. Okay, chemicals. So we need chemical engineers. If you want it, like, that's the number one thing that the U.S. does is make chemicals. But petrochemicals, fertilizers, pharmaceuticals, we talking about Monsanto and shit like that, okay? Electronics, I mean, we're not the top producer of electronics, but we do make, a lot of shit, like, computers, communication equipment, conductors and stuff like that. The defense sector in the United States has always been large. Shout out to the military industrial complex. We keep that going. Yeah, we still, like the vehicle thing, like that's still popping. Food and beverage industry, man, is always gonna be popping. Fat people here gotta eat. The fat people in the US gotta eat. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Complex Design. How you doing, bro? How you doing, man?
I'm good, bro. How you doing?
I'm doing well,
What's
man.
good? That Sam Dog? Hey, what's going on, bro? How you doing?
What's going on, Complex Design? Long time, man.
Word.
Yeah,
Word,
long time. But yeah,
Before y'all start chopping it up, let me finish this though. Machinery. So shout out to mechanical and engineering schools. we are a major producer of machines. Okay, farm machines, industry machines, and we make a lot of plastic. That's one of the things we do. We're the leading producer of plastics and rubber products. So, I mean, like, if you want to get into an industry, that's it. But a lot, the only thing I tried to explain was that, like, when it comes to America, we've had a shift from manufacturing to a service-based economy. And there's several reasons for it because, one, globalization, okay, which led to the outsourcing of many manufacturing jobs. You got technological advances, which, like, some services, can be delivered remotely, right? So, and then you got like changing preferences of consumers, and they want entertainment, travel, they want to dine out. Shouting out to the passport bros, they don't want to sit still, they want to go out, okay? And basically the government policy, just like the government has basically historically placed more emphasis on promoting services than protecting the manufacturing sector. We haven't protected it. Okay.
Well,
so,
that occurred in the 80s.
Yeah. I mean, and that's they
well,
were trying to,
but
Japan
now,
war.
all of those reasons that you mentioned are actually.
That's the trade war with Japan.
Everything that you just. Well, but everything that you just pointed to, all of those reasons is actually leading to manufacturing actually spurring up here in the United States again. Oddly enough. That's why I say, well, what this is a fourth industrial-based economy. So the question is, you said, well, we don't manufacture what? What needs to be manufactured in this modern era, right? What are some of the primary needs that the United States needs to manufacture here, right? Because of all of the changing global alliances and all that type of stuff.
Whatever.
Right? You see, so that all precipitates the need to bring manufacturing back here. That's why you have companies like SourceForge and all these other 3D print shops, right? That literally can run production components, right? With an enclosed, smaller scale micro manufacturing environment, and that can churn out all of the components and stuff that the larger shops used to do back in the 80s and 90s, like all the subcontractors for aerospace and all that. That stuff's been put into more of a micro environment. And this kind of speaks to what you were talking about earlier about efficiency and waste and all that kind of stuff. That's the reason why manufacturing gets scaled down. You can still produce at whatever volume you need to do, but you can do so with less waste and more efficiency.
I'm all for it. The only thing I want to say is, man, look, and the only point I tried to make, it's not to say that efficiency is bad, okay, or that productivity is bad. But the only thing, too much of anything is a bad thing, in my opinion. I mean, like busting a nut is good, okay? But if all you do is bust nuts, that's a problem, okay?
Well, I mean, the thing is that economically speaking, if you're going to be producing things in any sort of economy, you have to look at, I mean, look, it doesn't benefit me to go and produce 1,000 bikes if I know we're not going to sell 1,000 bikes.
I mean, precise.
Right?
I mean, I
That's
get
kind of
that.
one of the things you do is business planning. I mean, you plan out, you kind of know what your market calls for. You know what your clientele, your market requirements. How many are we typically on average selling here? Do we have any new clientele in other markets? Maybe that'll be the reason why we produce more. However, if our numbers are our numbers, it doesn't make sense for us to come out of pocket. That's excess. We want to be efficient. So we only want to pay for what's going to be bought and sold.
I mean, I get that.
So,
Like,
I mean, that's the MO of
it's
all
like waiting
companies
on
typically.
it's like print shop, shipping or print shipping or something like that. Like, we don't send it out until it's needed or necessary. But of course, like say for example, an industry like a consumer in, giant like Walmart and shit like that. I mean, they to them it's sufficient to just buy a bulk of shit and just to sell it and put it on shelves and and to discard it if it's not sold.
Well, look at their volume of customers. It makes sense.
Yeah, I get it. I understand.
As an e-bike producer, it doesn't make sense for us to do that. But
you
for
better
Walmart,
not.
I can totally see it.
You're gonna go. Do you make e-bikes?
Wait, say that
I
again.
say, do you make e-bikes, bro?
Yeah, e-bikes, scooters, all that stuff.
You're in that industry.
I do the software. We do that. We do the logistics software. We do it. We're a whole micro-mobility shop, top to bottom. We're all IoT based.
That's dope, though. I mean, hey, I personally, I got a regular bike, man. I'm pedaling my ass off. I go up and down hills, man.
Yeah. No, I'm saying in the chat, like you pedal the same way. You're going to exert the same kind of energy on an e-bike. You're just going to go faster and longer in terms of distance, but you're going to get the same workout. Like the majority of our clients are people they buy them for rehab purposes.
Yeah, I get it, bro. Like I get it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, if I had, like, those bikes are expensive though. They're not cheap.
No, they're not cheap. No,
I mean, you can spend $5,000 on an e-bike easy.
I have one in my garage right now. It's $3,000.
Yeah, but you can still spend one easy for $5,000. I know that.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. No. They easily. We got some that go as high as shit $8,000-$10,000 depending on what you want on.
Good Lord, give me a Harley, man. No, I'm just talking shit.
But
I mean, you make
on the market for that. Yeah.
Yeah, you make some good points, man. I mean, you make some good points, bro. I appreciate your contribution, man, and I appreciate you being a member. You're not a member, but like being somebody who visits the channel on a regular basis.
Sure.
Man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure.
I do want to read this though. He says, Ignat's Mouse says, support the channel. You can't get content like this anywhere else. As far as manufacturing, I'm looking into 3D printers. Where are they at? You got any advice on that?
What, 3D printers?
Yeah.
All over the place. You look on there, Amazon and eBay and Best Buy, and I mean you got then the individual companies themselves that sell them. I mean, there's tons of people on YouTube that do content on 3D printers. All they do is test these things, right? What kind of grade printer do you need? What do you need it to do? Do you need to just print PLA plastics? Do you need it to do metal? Do you need it to do, hell, you could do hemp fibers. There's a whole bunch of stuff you could do with 3D printing. Matter of fact, there is one brother in the manosphere who has an entire build shop. He builds his own drones. I'm trying to remember the brother's name, but he rocks on our channel. He has an entire build shop that he's built out. I mean, everything you need to literally from the ground up build a drone. And that's what he does. He builds custom drones. And he uses 3D printing to make all of the components. So once again, we start talking about fourth industrial economy actually, the technology enables us to get into this, to do this. That's our position as the proprietors of Manosphere 3.0. We were like, okay, look, the new mandate is that you wield this shit.
Yeah.
We're wielding this. No, here's what we're not going to do. We're not going to be out here and we're not going to sit up here and wonder what's going to happen to us when it gets deployed. We're going to do the deploying and we're going to do it in our hoods. And that's our position.
So, hey, look, I gotta just leave a link to, man, where y'all content is being created, man, because I don't
know whoever's modded up if they can post it, man.
Yeah, make sure you do that, man. All you gotta do is just throw some links, man. Self-referential spaces, man, is what.
Well, here's the thing, man. What we understand clearly being the Black Brain Trust is that we rub a lot of people the wrong way because of our position, and because of the stance that we take about all of the gynocracy talk, right? We've been around. The 3.0 is comprised of 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0 people. The cats who were in it from the jump down to dudes like me who came in around 2015, 2016. And when 2018 hit, I was like, dude, it's enough of this gynocracy talk, man. Where y'all gonna make some moves or what? And so we went and did 3.0, and it's a technocratic mandate. We wrote a manifesto for it. So we're dead serious about what we're talking about with this. And we got over 800 live streams, over 800, right? And in the crates, right? Breaking all of this down, all of it.
I feel you, man. Well, keep doing what you're doing, man. Like I'm not the type of individual, you know, to dictate what anybody's conversation should be about or anything like that. No. I enjoy it. So I have to check y'all out, man. I try to tell people, even though I'm a member of the manosphere, oftentimes I don't listen to a lot of manosphere content, especially the content that's associated incessantly with talking about these bitches. Like I get it, I understand.
You won't find me there.
Look, I get it. I understand it. Like I believe that the manosphere should have some, portion of their energy allocated to, what's going on in terms of injustice in the society, in terms of institutions like marriage and reproduction and shit like that. But can't be the sole thing all the time. You know what I'm saying? I need a break from that. So
yeah, because the thing is that's what I'm saying. So the manosphere is a vast place. Even when you look at the manosphere mainstream, they put people who are not in the manosphere and associated with it. So you'll have people say, oh, Abba and Preach and Fresh and Fit. Those guys have nothing to do, with the manosphere. And that's what I was saying is that it's a vast compartmentalized type of thing. And so what happens is, and what I would say with 1.0 or 2.0, the thing is, why the discussion is regurgitated is because that's the entry point for a lot of guys. So if you were to change what the entry point was, like, who's receiving them, what side of the space or whatever is receiving them, then you would, like I'm saying, you would see different conversations. So when you talk about like the gynocracy, for example, if you're on those panels, because like I said, those panels run for 4 hours, 5 hours at a time. So you're gonna get guys talking about tech, money, or whatever it is, and then 40 minutes later, somebody will come up and then they'll take the conversation in a different direction. So ultimately, so that will be the thing, right? So what happens is that I'm complex design, right? I'm taking trigonometry. I like trigonometry, but they keep letting all of these guys come in here, and these guys are talking about composite and prime numbers. I've been there and done that, right? So that's what I was saying was that over time we will have to evolve. Like we will have to evolve in terms of based upon where you're at, and we already have it, but maybe it needs to be something a little bit more structured in terms of based upon where you're at, and all of this is where you get funneled.
Well, I was signed up. I'm gonna say this, and then I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna drop off, and then I'll continue to listen in. I got my kiddo over here with me. I'll say this: the entry point to the manosphere for me wasn't women, right?
Same thing.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. I'm saying like I came into the manosphere literally probably some months after my wife passed away from cancer, right?
Sorry to hear that, bro.
Yeah. So.
I appreciate y'all for that, man. But I think for me, I was looking for. I just came back to California and everything, and it was more like politics and business and stuff like that. That's the reason why, the platform I'm a part of is centric to that. You know what I'm saying? I understand, like if there's conversations like that are going to be had. I guess what bothers me is so much of Black men's time an energy and life force is consumed with it.
Yes.
Yeah, that's my
I
That's
don't
my issue.
disagree. Yeah, I don't disagree. Yeah.
look. So Sandog and I were having a conversation offline, like maybe 4 or 5 days ago. I can't recall the amount of days that elapsed when we were having this conversation. But the whole point is, look, I understand the hedonistic Epicurean aspect of male life and their connection and tethering to the female members of our species. I mean, life would not persist without our interconnectivity with them. Can't live with them, can't live without them. Okay, I get it.
As the saying goes.
But women in today's culture do have an inordinate amount of influence and power, which they've never had before, and sometimes they wield it irresponsibly and unwittingly. They engage in practices themselves that I think are quite a bit oppressive. So I talk about the shit from I try to from a justice-based perspective. Okay. That's what I do. But like, I'm not here to have conversations with like individual men about how to get their game up.
You're right.
Dude, like I never, like I told cats a long time ago, I don't give a fuck about game. If you got girl problems, I feel bad for you, son. Like, I mean, but I am worried about, I'm worried about like the perception of black men based upon this idea that, like we're abusers and sexist and grapers and stuff like that. I have an issue with that. I take umbrage with that, okay? But like, by and large, I think, to me, the future of the black manosphere is, I guess, talking about what can you do with like the brother asked the question, like with the rise of ChatGPT, what do you think will be the impact on the black economy? It will touch all sectors. It's already touching all sectors.
It's already
artificial intelligence is here already, and it's going to have an impact more than anything else on customer service. I'm pretty sure the people in India, all the call centers and stuff, I know they hurting big time.
Yeah.
Because it's automated now.
It's more specialized, where it's going to require a person to do something. Whereas, like, if you can just manage a person's inquiry with a series of prompts, I think at this point AI can kind of take it over from there.
Exactly. So what's going to end up happening is, customer service and support is going to be handled in an automated fashion. You already are used to this though by now, because you get you get automation when you call.
I was going to say, you get the prompts when you call a number. Yeah.
Yeah. So market research, ChatGPT is going to be, able to, not maybe. It all depends on what service you're utilizing and what you buy. Because, I mean, like, if you're just using the free version, you're not going to get the optimized version of ChatGPT. I think they're iteration 4 now.
It's 4. And, to kind of speak to that, from what I understand, I heard there's a company messing around with stock trading with it.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah,
it doesn't.
Yeah. I mean, like, that's now
it's free now. They're getting you hooked on it. Eventually, you're gonna have to pay for ChatGPT, bro. It's not gonna. I mean, they will have engines, or if they do keep it free, it's gonna be an attenuated version of it. It's gonna be like right now, if you use ChatGPT, it'll malfunction here and there. Like your search history won't work one day, or it'll say, "Well, we're busy. The volume is too high at the current moment." Well,
I would say you got to look at it like this, right? Because it actually falls in line with the Web3 protocols. If you guys are familiar, this is sort of like the third iteration of the web. Okay. Yeah, what you're saying, look at it like this, right? Take Google in its Web 2 iteration, right? There's the enterprise level Google products, right? That companies could tap in, use, all that kind of stuff, like maps and all this stuff that Google's got, right? But the basic search function, right? You type in a query into Google and then getting a response, that's free. Okay.
Right.
I don't think Microsoft's going to charge you for ChatGPT. It'll be kind of like that, just in a Web3 iteration. So now what it is, instead of a rudimentary search engine, it's actually an AI, right? But it's gonna work the same way. You're gonna give it a query, and it's gonna give you way more data than what Google gave you links.
Yeah, exactly. So the way Google works is Google really actually is a search engine that basically crawls websites and it looks for links because they have bots or whatever the case may be. They call them spiders, a whole bunch of different things.
Yeah.
But they crawl websites and they look for links and they look for, site maps. And then they rank based upon or predicated upon how efficiently the website is set up or whatever the case may be, and how many posts are there, how many links to other sites are there.
How often when was the last time the information was updated? Now that was
Right.
but here's the thing, right? What Google ultimately went and did was it started deferring to the people that were paying for advertising, right? See, so now the links that you got were the people that were paying to show up in the search queries.
Yeah, that boosting. Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So we moved away from organic search, and that's what I'm saying. So now we're in this Web3 where now you're just dealing with an AI. Now it'd be one thing if we get to a point where the AI starts talking to you and then it says, oh, and by the way, this query is brought to you by, and then offers up some sort of ad that somebody paid, right? We're not there yet, but I'm saying that Web3, Chat GPT, you have Google, I forgot the name of Google's, and there's there's one other one that's supposed to roll out here shortly, but these are all going to kind of be these are going to be your new web search things, right? But it think different, right? Now we're just dealing directly with something that can let's just say kind of go back in their minds and say, okay, what did this person ask me? Oh, okay, here you go. Right? You can ask it to write you a whole paper, and I'm saying the AI will go, okay, give me a second, and then it'll give you a whole paper.
Yeah, right? So they got several of them right now. Like, okay, so they got something like BERT.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They got Transformer XL.
I'm saying there's a bunch of them. Like we just talked about Chat GPT. That's why I was like, dude, like wait until these other companies get their joints out, man.
Yeah, it's gonna be a whole bunch of them. So,
yep.
But at the end of the day, I think that like if you're a content creator, if you're creative, and if you want to streamline a creative process, man, utilize the shit. Okay. Even with YouTube, like if you want to do YouTube videos and streamline the process, let's say, for example, I'm not saying that I would do this because it's just not what I would do, but like say, for example, you can create based upon like what's trending in terms of keywords, right? Go find out like from Chat GPT, like information about the keyword, like, and create a list or something like that, and then move from there and go to an artificial intelligence voiceover, service or something like that. Have it read the script if you don't really enunciate or speak or have the software or the technology to actually, record. You can do all this shit in automated fashions, man. And then you can hire somebody to do B-roll and shit like that for you to perform like some sort of video service for you. You can create a whole YouTube channel based upon some shit that you utilize from Chat GPT if you wanted to.
Well, I'll give you like a real sort of rudimentary, sorry, it's a little loud in here. I'm just making some coffee. I'll give you a rudimentary application for AI and how we use it. So for a perfect example, I'm trying to remember, there's a brother in the chat who mentioned something about e-bike delivery, right? E-bike deliveries, right? So with the e-bikes and stuff, we also do the software stack that enables like, a call and request app on the phone, like Uber Eats or DoorDash or something, right? We do the same thing, but for e-bikes. And then we could work with companies that need things delivered. So you have a rider and he's just sitting there and then boom, his phone pings. He goes over here, picks it up, goes over here, drops it off, takes a picture, closes it out. Customer gets their stuff. Everybody's all happy. Now, let's just say if your order volume is high and you only have but so many riders out there, and you need them to double or triple up on the deliveries. So what you do is you ask the AI to sort out the deliveries as they come in. And what we want it to do is assign 3 to a rider. And then what we want to do is sort those to where they go in the most linear direction. And then on top of that, what we want to do is give them the sequence in which they're going to deliver them. And this is all in the name of efficiency and optimization.
That's dope.
So that's how we use it.
Yeah, that's dope, man. That's some dope shit. So So, and another thing it can do is it can help you code. You know, Chat GPT.
Yeah, I seen dudes like I seen this dude put in like a real sophisticated code request to Chat GPT, and this thing kicked out a nice little batch of code, and this dude went and verified it, threw it in the compiler, and was like, damn, this was good.
Yeah, so I mean, look, at the end of the day, you know, I have my reservations about artificial intelligence, like, you know, to a certain extent, just on principle. I'm not, like, if I can streamline my work process, I'm gonna do it. But like, the only argument I have complex design is, man, I don't work to work. I work so I can sit on my ass every now and then.
Okay.
You understand? Like, I don't, like, I work out so I look good, and I can, you know, like when I'm on the beach or like I'm at the swimming pool, I feel like, you know, I'm not embarrassed to take off my shirt, okay? But I'm not gonna be in the gym working. Sometimes, like let's say for example, even working out in general, like you don't really actually look good while you're working out, but you look good while you're sleeping. I mean, your muscles form, or you know, your body becomes better by the work that you put in, not when you're actually working, but when you're resting. So human beings need to rest, man, every now and then. I mean, you can't rest all the time though. Like being a sloth is unacceptable. So that's not the argument I'm making. Okay.
No, I'm not saying you're making that argument. I guess, see, again, man, I think, and this kind of speaks to what Sandor was kind of talking about earlier. Now, and I'll be firm on this, man. It's our platform that has been leading the charge on this conversation since 2018. Prior to that, no one else was doing it. Point I'm trying to make here is that one of the things that we've been reiterating as a theme with regards to being Black and being technocratic is that our position on it, and I think this should be the position particularly of Black men who want to leverage what technology can do for us to produce for us, right? Now, here's the thing. I've always said this. Technology, in my view, needs to be in synthesis with nature. This is why I was talking and speaking directly to efficiency and waste and all of that type of stuff, being mindful of the climate and all that. Now, I'm not no climate change junkie, because I think the electric car mandates here in California are bullshit. Okay, I think it's bullshit. Really, what I think it is I just think that there should be a more growth in the micromobility and the hybrid sector. But I don't think we're nowhere near ready to be pulling cars that run on gas off the road. It's bullshit. You see,
I don't see that anytime.
I'm not a climate Nazi like that, right? But then I also see how leveraging fourth industrial-based technology, especially in Black communities, brings it into the fourth industrial economy. And that is one of the main ways to stave off gentrification. It's one of the main ways to stave off gentrification. All those old buildings that are haven't been occupied in 15, 20 years sitting over, dude, turn that goddamn building into a vertical farm to address the goddamn food deserts.
Look, I understand. You know, I get
No, I'm not saying, I'm not pointing to you. I'm throwing this out here as a mandate.
So yeah, like steam power and electrician, all that old shit. I agree. This is the era of artificial intelligence, robotics, and data analytics, dog. It just is what it is.
It is what it is.
I mean, I'm not saying it is what it is. It is there. It is that. So if Black folks, if Black men want to actually, you know, find the means by which to, you know, do something, like Thomas Sowell, I remember him saying, like, well, Black people don't specialize in anything. Mm-hmm. Like that we do. Like, this is what we do. Like Indians and shit, they open up convenience stores and shit like that and do, you know, computer coding and customer service and stuff like that. Like a lot of Arabs where I'm from, like they have liquor stores and shit. Asians, they have Chinese restaurants and laundry services and nail shops and shit and beauty salons and stuff like that. Like, what do Black people do? Now you can decide, okay, this is what we do. This is what I do. Okay, it could be like, okay, well, we utilize artificial intelligence and we utilize it in order to provide services to the highest bidder. Whatever the case may be. I mean, you know, but you have to specialize in something. You have to learn something, and make it a part of your culture in order for you to be able to, continuously use it intergenerationally, But we don't, like, what do we have this intergenerational, bro? Like what in terms of a skill and like tradesmen, we pass it down from generation to generation. Like it's almost
rapping, dude, spitting hot fire. No, I'm joking.
I got them bars. But hey, man, look, all I can say is, like, it could have, like, we didn't create Hindu Arabic numerals, so I can see why, like, Arabic people would probably have an advantage over us in that regard. It's something they created, okay? It's their culture. But damn it, we could do something, you know what I mean? Except for, like, they say it's barbershops. We could do something except for cut hair and strip and twerk. We can't, it's possible.
Well, we've seen. Here's my issue, man, is that that's why I kind of enjoyed the Booker T, Garvey, W.B. Du Bois conversation that was taking place earlier, because it points to a time when we weren't doing that shit, right? Yeah. And a lot of what was going on at that time was laying the groundwork for honestly what we need to be doing today. I look at it as there was an interruption of about 60 years, right? But I'm gonna be real with you. I was born in 77. I wasn't there for it. I'm here now, bro. Right? So I'm gonna get it in on what I know to do today.
I feel you, man. I hear you, bro.
Yeah, that's you know what I'm saying? That's kind of what I feel as though, and this is just my own personal thing. People take it how they want to take it, all that. But that's what I feel as though brothers should be on. That's the mentality and the mindset I really do think as Black men we need to adopt in today's time. With all this AI talk and everything we just did.
Look, I love technology. I just, I got a website, bro. I'm trying to, like, it's something that I'm new to, saying I never did website-based marketing before or anything like that. But my whole goal is, at some point, I'm tired of talking to people about gender issues and relationship shit. Like, I want to be able to say, okay, if you want a nice pair of kicks, this is style. Or entertainment, you want to know something about entertainment, this is entertainment. Like the best shows, sci-fi, comics, like, or like, okay, you want to build a website, here's how you do it. It's a process of doing it. Or like, what's the best charger on the market right now?
We're multifaceted, bro. It's like, we're multifaceted, man. It's like, our existence isn't merely just the hood and bitches, man.
Yeah, I get it, man. Look, hey, I'm down with it. Big Kev,
dude, we've done live streams on horology, bro. Like, we just like talking about watches and shit, pulling up Tag Heuers and Longines and, you know what I'm saying, looking at butter-laid watches and, I'm like,
that's the sort of shit that I'm into too.
Black men, man.
Because look, men like gadgets, liquor. Now, not to say men don't like women, we like it, okay? But we're not like,
that's a given.
But damn, I mean, like, dude, if everything is a conversation about chicks, then when are you spending time doing the shit that actually gets the chicks? You know what I'm saying?
Thank you.
But I mean, but at the end of the day, like, all I can say is, bro, I've been there and I've done that. Like, I'm a member of like I was telling Sandow earlier, man. Look, bro, I'm a member of a fraternity. We got, like, all I got to do is put a shirt on and go to an event somewhere and motherfuckers gonna give me some attention. Just, even if I'm a pudgy, funny looking dude, motherfuckers gonna give me attention because I got this. Oh, when did you do this? When did you do that? Where you work at? What do you do? Blah, 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 blah. So I'm not worried about getting access to women. The only thing that I have a problem with is that what happens when you actually have a kid? You understand? You're going through a divorce, or you get hit with an allegation that you're an abuser or something like that. Those are issues that I think that like, Black men need to be attentive to, because that can upend everything else it is you're doing. And men aren't going to just become monks and not fuck with women at all. They're going to continue to have ongoing relationships with women. Okay.
Right. Yeah. I was about to say.
So we do have to be attentive to how we move politically and how we interact with these people, and then we got to make them be accountable and responsible for some of the egregiousness that they engage in. They have to, okay? So, but however, like, while I do love, these, what you can say, these hoes or whatever, like, I want to, like that's why I put the post up for my site is the ability for me to talk about shit other than the shit that I continuously have to talk about on YouTube. That I can accentuate men's lives with, like, okay, you want a dope ass watch? Here's the top 10 watches out there right now. You know what I'm saying? Or like, what's the top 10 sneakers out right now? Or like, what's the trending computers and computer terminals and screens and shit right now? Like, eventually I want to move, not to say that I don't like what I do here on YouTube. I think the conversations are not necessarily always fruitful, but I mean, men need a place to vent and to brainstorm, just like y'all do on y'all shit. You have to have that. You know what I'm saying? Sure. So, but at the end of the day, man, this is what I don't like about some of the shit that happens in this space is like the bullying and the harassing and the childishness. I'm like, man, fuck all that. I ain't come here for that bullshit, bro. Like, I didn't come here to have to continuously deal with, slander and libel and, character attacks and shit like that. Like, I didn't come here for that, man.
Yeah, no, I've been there with it, man. There's videos on YouTube of dudes questioning whether my wife is actually deceased or not, right? I mean,
why would I even give a fuck about if your wife is deceased or not?
I mean, dude, and that's the crazy part, right? Like, because I'm not here for that. So it's water down my back anyway, man. I'm not gonna really trip. I'm the one who is raising, our child, and I'm the one who has her death certificate in my possession, right? So can't nobody really tell me nothing about that. So I'm gonna keep it pushing. You know what I'm saying? But I do believe that if there's something that we're passionate about, that we need to get out here and communicate, man, because we're trying to better ourselves and each other. Hey, man, that might be just one of those things we may have to deal with. I try to keep it to a minimum, man, in terms of like being in places where I'm gonna be receiving that, because I don't think what I say would be receptive over there anyway. Right.
Yeah, I get it, bro. I get it. Yeah, like, right.
But hey, Gigi, I appreciate you, man. I'm gonna go ahead and shake, and I'm gonna listen in, bro. But I got to get back to my kiddo.
All right, man. Take care, man. Do your thing.
All right, y'all. Peace.
All right. Peace.
Yeah, thanks, Complex. Yep.
Yeah,
no problem.
So, Admiral, you got some closing remarks you want to make, and then I'm gonna let Kev talk, and then we're gonna wrap this thing up, man.
Yep. Cool.
You cool, Smoke? You done?
Yeah, I'm cool.
Okay.
Right.
Big Kev, you got something you want to say that we're gonna close this joint out?
Yeah. In regards to the, how can I put it? I'm just putting sentences together in my head. But yeah, in regards to talking about the relationship issues, I think what you're talking about earlier, Gigi, I think that's exactly what guys are focusing on. It's just that as somebody pointed out before, when the first when the first iteration of the so-called Black Manosphere came on the internet, the main thing they were talking about was raising issues was issues with child support. Okay, and as Edward Anderson was pointed down, those dudes got shouted out and shamed because these guys, quote unquote, couldn't get laid. You know what I mean? That was the argument. Okay, then you had guys like Big B Kel and LER Movement, and guys like General Tito and whatnot, guys who were clearly select, who clearly didn't have any problems getting women, raising the same concerns. And what happens is that the argument switched from you can't get women to now you're all misogynists. And now, again, with guys like you and Dr. T and Dr. Thunder coming online in the space, again, they're going to try to shift the argument again. So, again, it's just a matter of goalpost moving. So, in regards to that, so, again.
But my whole thing is this, man. Look. In relation, in saying, dog, I'm about to close it out. But at the end of the day, here's the thing, right? My view is that, like, just like what black women have said that black men, to some degree or another, want to imitate white patriarchy. Okay, there may be an element of truth to that, to a certain extent, insofar as if imitating patriarchy means that we want to be involved in family life and to have an impact over the education of our children.
Yeah.
And, like the building
exactly.
of their character, then okay, I guess I can see how you could be, like taken aback by our demand that we be involved and not be treated like uncle daddies and shit like that.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah, and then especially when it comes to making money, like making like a comfortable amount of money. I'm like, if that's what you consider imitating white patriarchs, I'm like, all right, cool. I mean, okay,
But the problem enters into the equation for me when you clearly have black women trying to be like white women.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get exempt from critique. They get to critique ad nauseum, and then there's no critique that's able to be delivered back at them for any reason whatsoever. Okay? So my whole viewpoint on this is, look, you basically, this is just Western culture in general. There's a male problem in this culture right now. Okay? And until it's rectified, men are going to have an issue and they're going to speak out about it. And women constantly, like pressing the panic button about how they're oppressed and subjected to violence and shit. All of that really is a thinly veiled excuse for them to be able to engage in careerism. So a lot of this shit behind all of the accusations and throwing us under the bus, it's all economically driven.
Well, yeah. Well. As I was saying, telling to some people before, again, the reason why they lie on so-called black men, especially straight black men, they do it for three reasons. It's for money, it's to deflect accountability away from themselves, and it's to rationalize their internalized self-hatred. So, I mean, it's really not that deep of an explanation besides those main 3 points. And again, the reason why they have a problem with the space is because, as Sandog is pointing out, is that because we have a boots on the ground, kind of like a realistic view of the day-to-day life of a working class man, and because we like to cite our sources and do a lot of research, what's scaring them, what the establishment is what's scaring them about this space is that, being that we're labeled as the social outcasts of society, not only are we given an accurate assessment of the problems when it comes to like male-female relationships, as well as the neglect and underdevelopment of boys, but we're saying it loudly. That's what they don't like. We're not only pointing out where they're fucking up, but we're pointing out loudly. Almost like almost like a football coach screaming at you, like, hey, why the hell did you bite on that pump fake? You know what I mean? Like that type of thing. So that's what I think was scaring people. Fake, huh? So exactly.
Anyway, so let me, any final words, Admiral, man? We about to be out this motherfucker, bro.
Yeah, man. I mean, like, again, I think it's all has been said, man. It's just that, again, this phenomena that we call the black manosphere has reached pop culture, and even when you're getting to the point now where you're talking about, well, you have people who are blaming black men for losing elections, right? And so again, now, like I said, you have to take that momentum, because again, there is a lot of what I would like to call high culture arguments that come out of 1.0 and 2.0 that will at some point become some form of law or political policy. So we just have to make sure that when this happens, that we don't get left behind again.
Exactly.
But I'll tell you, so I'm about to close this out. I'm gonna have the final word, and here's the final word, man. Like right now, Dr. Johnson is writing the book. You know what I'm saying? So when that book comes out, support it. You know what I'm saying? So some of the things that he speaks about on his channel, a lot of people like to say that, we have no purpose, we serve no, function at all in the black manosphere, and I can understand that. Like I've made similar arguments about the excesses of philosophical musing myself. How can you expect for me to be an expert in the shit that I am in and be in academia and not know the vices associated with it? Like I can tell you more than you can tell me, because I'm there and I'm surrounded by the shit, so I can understand it. I get it. However, my whole point is, you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You got to be able to separate the wheat from the chaff. So Dr. Johnson is going to go in depth into explaining the various ways in which gender has been utilized by the predominant culture in order to create a rift and to actually create a buffer class between black people in America. And we can't just continue to be like the whipping boy of the black community in order to, serve the interests of somebody's, economic ambitions and shit. It's not moral. It's unscrupulous. Okay, that's all we're saying. Okay, now I understand the need to be self-sufficient, to be actualizing, to demonstrate initiative. We get that. I'm all for that. Just because I say some of the things I say doesn't mean that I'm excluding the other. But at the end of the day, man, I'm 2 hours into this. I'm about to close this off. I'll holler at y'all on the next one, man.
All right then. Yep. Thanks, GG. Thanks, Dog. Bye.
Peace.